Okay. We were at a point where we're saying, depending on what options have been tabled, then the next step would be to look at the practicability of each option to the business. If workers have tabled reduced hours, part-time work, or working from home, or temporary layoffs, or retrenchment of a certain percentage of workforce, then whatever option is practicable should be implemented, which will go into the Fed process. Then we implement whatever option that we find is practicable in the circumstances. If it's say layoff, then we implement the layoffs. But the understanding should be whatever that option is, we should also discuss it to understand how is going to happen, how is going to be implemented, when is going to be implemented, and what are other effects of it. For example, if it's layoffs, will there be a certain percentage of salaries being paid during that time? That's what needs to be agreed. And once all those agreements have been done, then it's implemented. But the fourth would be evaluating whether the option now that has been implemented still goes on to serve the problem. In other words, we'll go on now to evaluate if, for example, the layoff is addressing the issue. Say if the layoff was at a certain percentage of salary, then that means we'll recheck and see if the employer can sustain that percentage of salary. So from time to time, whatever option, whether it's working from home, whether it's temporary layoffs, whether it's part-time work, whatever the option that we choose, bottom line, we have to implement it and reevaluate as we go along so that we understand whether it still continues to be practicable to the business. So in the event, however, that retrenchment is unavoidable, or even layoffs, let's say the layoffs are not even helping the employer to address the problem, and therefore retrenchment is unavoidable, then as we know, the process starts again. We consult the workers, we look at the alternatives, where now we are saying all the alternatives are not possible to address the issue at hand. For example, if we are saying, even if we were to operate at a certain percentage of workforce, this problem will still continue, then it means we have to retrench. Then where we now say we have no other options but to retrench, then the issue would be, how is this retrenchment going to be effected? The first thing is, if we are saying we are retrenching, say, a specific number of people, the important issue would be, how is that number going to be selected? Look, the selection criteria should be agreed on. The second part would be, what are benefits that are going to be paid to such persons? So if we go to the first part, the criteria for selecting the workers, would be saying, okay, we understand that we are going to be, say we are taking the resolution to retrench a certain number of workforce. Then the issue would be, how are we going to effect this? So even there, the workers are still consulted so that they give out options that can be available even as a criteria. But the understanding is that the criteria that should be selected is a fair criteria. In other words, we cannot go to the criteria that attacks or seems to be targeting certain employees. For example, if an employee was a member of a trade union and now the employer sees maybe that he has been troublesome, you can't target such employees. And you can't target a person because he has a bad record, or you can't target a person because he is a poor work performer. The understanding there is that if a person has a poor record, a poor disciplinary record, or is a poor work performer, the employer all along had other recourse to use in order to address the disciplinary record of the person. or to use in order to address the poor work performance. So we cannot be using retrenchment as a way to take out people that were otherwise we did not do anything about during the course of the operation. So like we said, the course will scrutinize even the criteria for selecting the workers. And look, normally in the course, what are the main issues is, did you consult? And what criteria did you use? So that all those seems to be fair. And once there seems to be an unfair criteria or consultations that have left other people, then that would be a cause for action by the court. So when we go to the criteria for selecting the workers, the fair ones have been the length of service. For example, you could say, let's look at the people that have just been employed, or let's look at the longer serving employees. So whether you use that long service or short service, it should be discussed within the forum of employers and workers. It can also be the skills that the workers have. For example, in terms of skills, it could be, if in a department, there are 3 people, and there is one who has more skills, say is in an IT industry, and we are looking for a person who can design a website and who can source information on social media, and there is one who does all that, then obviously the skills of a person who has more or better skills to suit the operations will be taken. Sometimes even affirmative actions or qualifications are also used as a fair criteria. Affirmative action is when, say, for example, you are now trying to ensure that you also employ disabled workers. So you'll be saying, at this time, I do not want to retrench the disabled workers. So that would not be taken to be unfair. You will be saying, because I want to continue with this policy that I've adopted of ensuring that people with disability have a say in our workplace. So even qualifications will be some of the fair criteria that we can look at. So at the end of the day, what happens is you consult, you talk about the criteria that you are going to use. So these criteria, once agreed as well, say we are looking at length of service. When we are saying we are taking length of service as the criteria that we are going to use to retrench, the options that are available there is whether it's a long service, is a long-serving worker, or just an employee that has just been employed. In other words, we'll be using LIFO or FIFO. LIFO means last in, first out, or FIFO, first in, first out. So it should also be clear from the workers which one of those options we are taking. If it's last in, first out, that's who we should, that's the criteria we should implement. And when implementing such a criteria, it should also be done consistently so that it does not target certain employees as well. If a certain worker falls within first in, first out, all those people falling within that criteria should go. If we are using last in, first out, all those people falling within that criteria should go. If we are using skills as a selection criteria, all those people who have more skills should be retained, while the ones having less skills should be retained. But it should be done in a fair and open process so that even anyone in a department can see that I'm going to fall within this criteria, even before we can say you fall within this criteria. But it should be so fair that all of the workers can see whether they fall within that criteria or they don't fall within that criteria. What has been the issue is that where a criteria has been selected, then employers try to manipulate the criteria to suit certain workers that they prefer, or to suit certain workers that they do not prefer. That has always been the issue, that the criteria that has now been agreed is not being used fairly to apply consistently to all. That has always been the problem. So once that has been done as well, supposing now we are agreeing that we are using skills, all those skilled workers should be agreed, should be consulted. So where we are saying now, this is a group of workers that are going to be affected by this retrenchment. Now, the other consultation there has to happen again, specifically now with the people that are going to be affected by the retrenchment. You will at that stage be saying, you are going to be affected by the coming retrenchment, in that, as you know, in our last meeting, we agreed that the selection that is being used is first in, first out. Unfortunately, you are one of those people that have just recently been employed by our company in terms of engagement days, and you are going to be affected by this criteria. Now you discuss with them what benefits, what recourse going forward will be available to them. So at that time, you'll be saying, now that you are the one who's going to be affected, now let's discuss in terms of notice. You have to know, I think when we are discussing this, the other main issue was, oftentimes employers like to say they will give employees a retrenchment package. But in effect, it's not a retrenchment package, it's just terminal benefits. Because in terms of notice, for example, notice is a right of an employer, of an employee vested to him by law. Whether you're going to retrench this person or not, notice will still be eligible. Leave as well is a terminal benefit in terms of, it's my right, whether I was being retrenched or not, I was still going to get my leave payment. Even severance pay as well. It's not a retrenchment package, but a terminal benefit in terms of it accrues upon termination. It does not necessarily accrue on retrenchment. It accrues on any termination. So those benefits will be due to the employer, whether you are employed or you are being terminated by way of retrenchment or any other means. So we cannot regard them as a retrenchment package, but rather as terminal benefits. What are normally referred to as retrenchment packages is where you find that an employer says, as we consult, there are other employees who are saying, because I was already going to retire, I volunteer myself for this retrenchment. Then the employer would be saying, over and above the terminal benefits that you're having, I will pay you, say, a 2-month package, 2-month salary package over and above the terminal benefits that are due to you. Or where an employer says, I will train my workers so that they are eligible to start small businesses that they can start. Those would be retrenchment packages. So the difference is that these other ones are mandated by law, and they are terminal benefits and not packages. Where is the package? It's an employer going over and above the requirements that have been stipulated by the law to meet these employees halfway in order that they can be able to continue with their livelihoods going forward. If you say, I will give you a certain amount of money to start a business, that would be a retrenchment package. So at the end of the day, I'm about to conclude. We have a lot of cases dealing with retrenchment cases. Like I said, a lot of them, we'll always talk about consultations, where consultations done and how were they done. The second, we'll talk about the criteria for selections. Were they a fair selection criteria? And were the alternatives to dismissal? Because as we know, we are saying, as we have already said, we are saying retrenchment should be a last recourse. So were the alternatives seriously considered? And most often, you'll find that even the cases that go to court will be around those 3 issues. So I have shared on the presentation the cases that deal with retrenchment, and the one that I scrutinized was the Budi and others versus Lesotho precious garments. It was also talking mostly about consultations and selection criteria. So as employers, we should understand that if we try as much as possible to ensure that all these are done in a fair way, we avoid a lot of disputes, really. You'll find that where you have been fair, you have been consistent in your sharing of information with the employees, where you have considered the options that they have given you, where you have really considered the discussions and whatever input coming from the employees, and you have tried to look at it generally to see if it can work or we can consider it, then a lot of disputes can be really avoided. So I guess everybody can go into the website. It's Safely. You can search any cases dealing with retrenchment to see which ones will be applicable in your case. So, like I said, it goes without saying that consultations is a main issue. So, for an employer to say he had one consultation with employees, then he's retrenching. Obviously, it says there's something wrong right there. You can't have one meeting with the employees where you are saying you're consulting and then retrench the next. So the understanding is that there should be a number of consultations in order to address all these issues. So I would say the purposes, like I said before, the purpose should be, 1, to state the problem in the first meeting. 2, to discuss the alternatives in the second. 3, to see practicability of those options. And 4, maybe now to talk about those the criteria and now with those affected employees. But at the end of the day, we know that restructuring or retrenchment is done for a number of reasons other than COVID. But because COVID is also a no-fault issue, both employers and employees should need to come on to consult in good faith, bearing in mind that whatever the process that they have to go through should be fair, not only to the employees per se, or not only to the employers per se, but to the operation of the business as well, so that we understand that the business should also continue in a healthy manner, or the employees should also be, in as much as possible, try save their jobs. I think I've covered almost what we needed to know about this process. And at this stage, I'll say thank you so much, Nthebe Mbulane and Advocate Sakwane.
Nthebe, you are still on mute.
Really? Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
No, thank you so much, Nthebe. This is what our members need to hear. This is what every employer needs to hear, because we get so many questions from our members, from just ordinary people asking, I've been retrenched and it doesn't look like the employer followed procedure. From what I understand, is a procedure, but and we think this process has been very enlightening for Mutumulimo who wants to know how to go about it. Before we allow the TK to jump in, I wanted to, because one of the questions that people ask is, but tell retrenchment package, retrenchment package. And there's no package. What exactly is this retrenchment package as against terminal benefits? Because terminal benefits, but what exactly is it? Is it is a retrenchment package, and is it provided for by the law? Is it something that the law provides for?
Unfortunately, our law does not provide for a retrenchment package. It only provides for the terminal benefits that are due to employees upon termination, and any termination, I guess, because it's not just for operational requirements. A retrenchment package is something an employer would, out of his own motion, offer to the employees over and above the terminal benefits that are otherwise rightfully due in terms of the law to the employees. That's why I said, if an employer offers, say, 2 months salary payment to the employees that would otherwise be saying, I was already due to retire and I'll opt myself, I offer myself for this retrenchment, then the 2 months salary would be a retrenchment package, because the employer would be saying, I'm offering that over and above the terminal benefits that you have. if the employer says, I will give you a certain amount of money for you to start a business, or I will train you in a certain area so that you can be able to pursue other business outside, then that's a retrenchment package and not a terminal benefit. So there are a number of packages that employers can look at. It could be in terms of salaries, it could be in terms of months payments in salaries, or it could be training, it could be retrain in a certain field, or even just capital to start a business. So those we would regard as retrenchment packages, while my severance pay, my leave payment, my notice would be my rights and are not within the wet package, but my right or terminal benefits, as we say.
Okay, so basically I'm thinking that for an employer, if I'm retrenching people because of COVID, the first question that I would ask, the law does not, I'm not obliged to offer anything over and above the terminal benefits. And secondly, I'm retrenching because I don't have money. My business is not doing well. Therefore, I have to retrench. So I can't be expected to pay anything over and above what is due to the employee.
Yes, ultimately, like I said, is not written in the law. It's what employers do out of their own motion. So obviously it will be based on whether the employer can afford in the first place to pay such packages. Where an employer will be saying, yes, I do not have money to sustain, because what you should understand is it's retrenchment. When an employer is retrenching, he'll be saying, I do not have money to sustain the operations. But even then, the employer can be saying, because we have performed well in the past, I could have a certain amount that I can spare to pay these packages. Not necessarily because these packages would be able to run the operations if we are not saying we are giving them out.
So it's really about seeking the goodwill and good hearts of employers to really dig deep in their pockets and in their hearts to say, yes, I have to retrench these people, but wait, let me give them a little bit, to take with them as they go and seek other alternative employments or other modes of livelihood. We'll get back to you as we close, but now we have to ask Nthebe TK to come in. We are talking here about people now who have been retrenched, retrenchment packages, if there are any retrenchment packages, or even their own terminal benefits. What should they do? How can you guide them? Okay. Before we do that, there's a question here. If it is a question, it's a request. People are saying, that's it. Please go on.
Thank you very much, Nthebe, and good afternoon. Well, good morning to the viewers. And I will take you through a presentation that I thought was very relevant for today's session. And Nthebe really set the tone really well. So I'll basically just build on from what she said, but from a personal finance perspective. So Nthebe, here we are assuming that now this person has officially been retrenched, and now they have this lump sum of money sitting in their account, couple they're about to receive this money sitting in their account. What then do they do with it? So allow me to share my presentation with you. All right, so allow me to first start with introductions. My name, like I mentioned, is TK Nthebe. I am the founder of TKO Consultancy, and what we do is to provide financial education. Now, at this point in time, I'd also like to mention that what I'm about to share here does not constitute as financial advice. Mine is to share financial education such that you are empowered to make solid financial decisions. that still means you need to sit down with a qualified professional and then look at your individual situation and your individual numbers. I'm also a published author. I'm very passionate about retirement planning. And when I saw this opportunity, I was like, yes, an opportunity to speak about retirement planning and how terminal benefits, which form part of the retirement planning, sort of influence what we do. I'm also very passionate about traveling, cycling, and I'm a lifelong student. I'm a content creator and I write for cdbn.com. So thank you, Nthebe and the team for allowing the platform today. So to start off with a bit of context before I get into the COVID situation. In the Lesotho context, research indicates that almost 50% of household income goes towards paying debt. Now, for anybody who looks at these figures, those are very scary numbers. And myself and Dr. Michelle Reyes did a study when we were doing my master's, and we found that 41% of Basotho perceive themselves to be adequately prepared for retirement. What this means is it's a perception. It does not necessarily translate in them being adequately prepared financially. And holistically, looking at the South African context and the Lesotho context, only about 6% of Basotho can actually afford to retire financially secure. Now, looking at these statistics, it really is quite scary. Now, bring in these statistics in the COVID situation, where almost 50% people are taking almost up to 50% salary cuts. Almost, this is a figure that I found in the newspapers last week, about 1,300 factory workers are about to be employed. And like Mary Lebile mentioned, currently we have up to 31 people who have died due to COVID. Now, looking at the landscape, it really is scary. Now, let's fast forward to people who are receiving these retirement packages or terminal benefits in this regard. Now, I want to start off and say, the question with a quote that says, the question isn't at what age I want to retire, it is at what income. It is at what income. So now you have your terminal benefits, which form part of your retirement planning. You are probably still in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, possibly 50s, and now you've been retrenched. You've got these terminal benefits. What do you do? Now, the question I want to lay the foundation is, at what income do you want to retire? Because that also influences the kind of decisions you're going to make today, because what you are deciding today is going to affect your future. All right, so what do you consider from a financial planning perspective when you've been retrenched? Firstly, the estate planning. So there you are receiving your income. What happens should you die after you receive those terminal benefits or while you're in the process of receiving those terminal benefits? Secondly, what are the tax implications that goes with that particular terminal benefits payout? Should you die, like I mentioned, is there a funeral cover in place? Do you have health? What are you healthy in terms of where you are? And do you have food and groceries, which is predominantly what a lot of people are worrying about in today's era? So these are some of the things that I wanted to say that let's consider and think about as we are preparing to make solid financial decisions. So now, where do you start, Nthebe and the viewers? From a financial management point of view, the fact that you are losing your income, the fact that you have the possibility of never earning an income again is really quite scary, both financially, emotionally, and psychologically. So the first thing that people need to do, or we encourage people to do, is to stay calm, which is extremely difficult, to think and then to plan. Why is it important for you to stay calm? If you are not calm, chances of you making emotional financial decisions are very, very high. Secondly, determine how much the terminal benefits are. Why is it important to determine how much the terminal benefits are? It's because if you don't have a figure in mind, it becomes very difficult for you to plan your way forward. So determine how much it is you're going to earn or you're going to receive. And this is a conversation that you need to have, like Mary Lebile mentioned, a dialogue between you and your employer. And obviously the tax implications will come into place here because terminal benefits, when you're cashing them out, there are tax implications. The third thing, is to draw up a new budget, or what we refer to as a survival budget. What a survival budget is, it means that it's a different budget from the one you've been using while things were normal. While things were, life before COVID as we know it. So a survival budget is where you go back to your budget and you re-evaluate and scrutinize your income, your expenses, and what I normally call I want to need them expenses. So what this means is that you need to look at your budget and ask yourself difficult questions. Do I need to still pay for DSTV? Do I still need to buy grocery at 2,000 versus here 1.5? What do I still need to do from that regard? The fourth thing that's very important is to have conversations with your creditors. What I mean by creditors is a lot of people have loans with financial services providers. They have loans with microfinanciers, etc. So it is very important for you to have a conversation with them and let them know about your new financial situation. What people tend to do is when they lose their income, they do what I call the ostrich approach. And pretend like nothing is happening. The sooner you receive that, have a conversation with your bank or your financial service provider, because they are able to help you. One, they can restructure your facilities. Two, most of the financial banks locally provided what we call debt repayment holidays. So they're able to talk and help you through that situation. Do not wait until the bank comes to you, couple the microfinancier, to call you and chase you for money. Immediately when you lose your job or your income or you receive your terminal benefits, have a conversation with your financial services provider and then work on a plan. That's why number two is also very important, because you may have to consider using some of these terminal benefits to pay off the debt. And I don't necessarily recommend that, but it depends on what your situation is. The other point that's very, very important is have an honest conversation with your family, because if you do not tell your family that you're no longer receiving an income and you've received your terminal benefits, they still have expectations you'll provide for them financially. They will still have those lifestyle expenses that you can no longer afford. Sometimes it may take a while before you get a new job. What does that mean? It means that you'll be depending on these terminal benefits if it's your only source of income. So having this conversation becomes very, very important. And once you've had this, the next thing is, what is your next move? Are you paying debt? Are you paying off your debt, depending how much it is versus the terminal benefits? Are you going to transfer the funds, the terminal benefits, to another fund if you receive a job? Are you going to start a business if you are into entrepreneurship? Or are you, like Mary said, are you going to retrain yourself to become more relevant? So which means you may use some of this money towards studying something new and doing a career change altogether. So now, what are my options you may be answering? So from a retirement planning, or from a personal retirement planning perspective, there are two different things you can save towards retirement. Remember, when you're receiving your terminal benefits, these terminal benefits are supposed to be your income, hourly 65 and beyond, to sustain you in retirement. So as much as you are using it to pay off debt now, it means that at some point, you're going to have to retire and you're going to need an income, which forms part of that. So if you are fortunate enough to get a job, it means that there are two options available. There's what we call occupational funds that are generally in the sense where there's an employer-employee relationship. That can be either a pension fund or a provident fund. So let's suppose in the event where you receive your terminal benefits and shortly thereafter, what you can then do is you can use that money or your terminal benefits and then transfer it into the employer's occupational fund, pension fund, or a provident fund. Alternatively, if you are not fortunate enough to find a job at that point in time, and you do not have the option of transferring your terminal benefits to that, you can consider what we call non-occupational funds. That either is a retirement annuity or what we call a pension preservation fund. So these are funds that are not employer-employee related. This is where you go to an insurance company or an asset management company, and then you put your funds, your retirement or terminal funds, into those particular instruments. Now, obviously, you also need to understand the terms and conditions that go with those particular funds. For example, with a retirement annuity, you can only cash out the money when you are age 55. So if you're going to take your terminal benefits and put it into a retirement annuity, be aware that there are limitations on how you can access that money. Also keeping in mind that terminal benefits form part of your retirement plan. So whatever you're doing, you also need to consider what is going to happen when you're 55, 65, or when you go to retirement. The other things to do when you have to consider this, what you do with your terminal benefits is how much income do you want to receive on a monthly basis, either today or versus on retirement. The second question is, will this income sustain you and for how long? So imagine you are receiving your terminal benefits now and you do not have a job for the next 6 months. How long will this income sustain you? And if you have to find a new job, how quickly can you find a new job? Are you skilled? What's the economy looking like? How much money can you withdraw as a lump sum? Now, these are for people who are considering accessing their terminal benefits. Tax implications I spoke about. Who are your dependents? We spoke about this when I was speaking about estate planning. Do you have any outstanding debt? And do you have any activities to keep you busy while you are finding a job? So these are some of the things that you need to be thinking about now, as in today's situation with COVID, but also about what's going to happen to you when you go to retirement. I've seen a lot of people, like Nthebe mentioned, who are close to retirement and they offer to voluntarily take early retirement. Even banka their terminal benefits, and then they want to start or they take their terminal benefits and they want to buy a new car. If that was not part of your plan, it means that the income you're going to be receiving in the long term might be affected. So the question I always ask, back to the first slide, are you adequately prepared for retirement? And are you making decisions today that will help you be better prepared in the future? So here I've provided what I also think is very important. Back to the survival budget I spoke about, you need to go back and you need to look at your current expenses today and what they will look like at retirement, because this will inform some of the financial decisions you need to make. If you are paying rent, if you have fixed expenses, do you have insurance, water and electricity, medical aid, groceries, and other things? These will basically be affected or impacted by the decisions you make today with your terminal benefits. So you need to have a sit down and have a solid plan as to how you're going to approach all of these situations. Now, the other alternative that people can have, depending on where you are, some people can say that I've received my terminal benefits, but I'm not going to spend this because I've got other sources of income. Then you can consider moving these funds into asset management companies, such as, there are local asset management companies that specialize with investments. But what do you consider before you make that decision? The first thing I always advocate for is, what is your financial goal? Because that influences what kind of fund, what kind of investment you go into. The second thing is, we need to look at what we call your risk profile. So TK, I may be very scared about or skeptical about putting my money in certain investments because I'm scared I may lose the capital or the amount I put into that. So you need to understand your specific risk profile. The third thing that's very important when looking at investment is the return or the interest you're going to earn. Now, one thing that people always overlook when it comes to investments is they actually do not ask financial services providers, how much interest am I earning on my investment? Do I earn it on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis? And they don't understand that, because that informs the kind of decisions you're going to make. The fourth thing that's very important is the time horizon. How long do you want to invest this? Now, remember that terminal benefits are part of your retirement plan, and retirement plans are normally long-term. So now you'd want to put your money in a fund where the returns are good, but they are good in the long term. I'll also get to the point where COVID has affected certain pension funds and what that means. And then the liquidity is, how quickly can you access your money? So I earlier mentioned a retirement annuity, you can only access the money at the age 55. So when you're making a decision to invest in a retirement annuity, you need to be cognizant that from a liquidity point of view, you can only access that money at the age 55. So that has to inform the kind of financial decisions you're going to make. Now, the one thing that I'm very passionate about, like I mentioned, retirement, is what we call the replacement ratio. What the replacement ratio is how to sedate every single day and you're working when things are normal. Is when you go to retirement, you need to replace your income because you still need to maintain a certain standard of living. So for example, if TKAY earns a current salary, 10,000 per month today, for you to still maintain the same standard of living when you go to retirement, it means that you need to replace 75% of your income. What that means is, the thinking is, one, when you are in retirement, you no longer go to work, so your fuel costs go down. House has a lunchbox, which means that goes down, which means certain expenses go down, and I've shared that template. But obviously, as certain expenses go down because you no longer wake up to go to work, it means that medical, because you're getting older, becomes very significant. The medical health cost becomes quite significant. So for you to still maintain that standard of living, you need to be replacing at a bare minimum or a standard 75% of your current income. So if I'm living off 10,000 today, it means that in retirement, for me to still enjoy the quality of life that I want to enjoy, I need to be earning 7,500 rand per month. Now, back to what I said earlier on, you are receiving your terminal benefits. Suppose it's 40,000, and you take it to pay off debt, and you take it to do all of that, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what you need to also be cognizant of is that 40,000 that you're taking now and using to survive COVID now, it means that it's taking away from this 7,500 that you'll be living on, not necessarily a bad thing. Mine is just to highlight certain things that you need to be thinking about as you speak and work through your finances, So the other thing that people do not really understand as well, but this is now when you're at retirement, there are different annuities. What annuities are basically, because or you were used to earning a salary every single month, you can then consider buying an annuity. Your terminal benefits can buy you a monthly salary every single month, but this is just for me, this is just for information purposes. So now, let's look at how COVID has done and affected pensions. Earlier on, I mentioned how pensions are long-term investments, I get. So now here you are, you've received your terminal benefits, and you've received your terminal benefits. Now you're making a decision where to buy or where to invest your money, or what to do with your money. Let's suppose that you decide that I'm going to preserve my funds because I've got other sources of income. There's another person who will say that I'm going to use my terminal benefits to pay off my debt. I'm going to use my terminal benefits to go to school. I'm going to go take my terminal benefits and take care of my day-to-day expenses, depending on what you decide. But in this case, these are people that are saying, I'm going to use my terminal benefits and invest because my retirement is also very important. So what this graph shows is that different kind of investors. I spoke about the return or the interest, and I spoke about the risk profile. So when you're deciding where to buy, is the concept, the higher the return, the higher the risk, the higher the return, I get. So from an investment point of view and from a pension investing point of view, they are what we call 4 asset classes, investment. So now when you look at the first category, first, these are people who predominantly put money in funds, an asset class, a money market fund, money market, or a cash fund. So when you look at the graph, it means that if you're investing in cash as an asset class, savings accounts, fixed deposit, treasury accounts, treasury bills, notice accounts, if you're investing money in those, it means that they are safe in terms of the risk, but the return you're going to be earning is very low. The second concept is for people who are considering to invest money in what we call fixed interest or bonds. The Central Bank of Lesotho will say, buy a bond and a. So in terms of the length of the investment, it's predominantly 3 to 7 months, and the risk is slightly higher than cash as an asset class. The third one is for people who have a risk profile area. I'm a bit more risk seeking, so I'm going to take my money and invest it in riskier asset classes such as property. So property, the duplex, the investments, commercial property, they have a higher risk, but a higher return. But again, the time duration, very, very long term. And then one of my personal favorites is investing in equities, or what we call shares. High risk, very volatile, but return in the higher, in the longer term. So from a pension perspective, when COVID hit in March, a lot of pension funds, a lot of investments went literally rock bottom. And a lot of people were panicking. A lot of investors were panicking and they wanted to take out the money and disinvest. Now, the disadvantage of doing this is, one, I always ask, what was your risk profile? Secondly, what was your financial goal or your investment goal? Pension is long-term. So it means that you need to, when things go wrong, you need to weather the storm and then you need to stay put. It also goes back to what your financial goal is. The concepts I spoke about here. The financial goal, the risk, the return, the time horizon, and the liquidity. How quickly do you want to access your money? So now, what do you do? I think I'm also closing to, because I love to interact with questions and interactive session. So a reminder that pensions are long-term. Whether you're cashing out your terminal benefits now, whether you like it or not, retirement is coming. And I mentioned that only 6% of people are retiring adequately secure. What that means is if you do not have adequate retirement savings, couple, you're not thinking about your retirement, at some point, you're going to become a burden to the government. So you're going to depend on the government to give you a livelihood in your retirement. So when you are making decisions regarding your terminal benefits, it becomes very, very important for you to look at the holistic picture. The second thing is stay calm and avoid making emotional financial decisions. What I love about personal finances is personal finances, I always say, are personal. So what is relevant to me as TK and relevant to Mary Lewile or Mary Tabile on the Dembulan is very, very different, and how we approach it is going to be very, very, very different. But if you stay calm and you make sound financial decisions, then you are better equipped to move forward in terms of how your life is going to unfold. Thirdly, remember why you are investing. Remember why you are investing. If you are saying your terminal benefits are for the future, then go back to that goal. COVID will disrupt you, yes, but there are different solutions available. Again, there are different solutions that are available for you. I mentioned that financial services providers provide holiday payments, or they provide holiday payments. There's options to restructure. You can claim against the credit life insurance if you have any personal loans, and they can pay your premiums for certain. So before you cash out your terminal benefits and you spend them, explore all the different avenues and opportunities available. Again, the fourth thing is when it comes to pensions, remember, pensions are long-term. So if you're going to look at your pension fund every single day, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Allow the financial markets to do what they do. Remember why you started and teach yourself on how money works. With that said, I'm ready for Q&A. And then before I get into that, I always say, besides the fact that pension funds are personal, I always say that remember why you have started. We have the best intentions as people. We have the intentions to save. We have the intentions to get our finances right. We have the intentions to get our money right. But unless you have the discipline and you remember what your goal is, your financial goal is, whatever it is, you will not be equipped and empowered to make financial decisions. I always say, if you want your money to take care of you, you need to take care of your money. And it starts with the terminal benefits that you receive. We are used to earning a monthly salary, 5,000, 2,000, whatever, however much you earn. Suddenly you receive this lump sum, terminal benefits. It becomes very difficult for you to be rational about what you do. Also before you know it, if you don't have a plan for it, before you know it, that money would run out and you will have nothing to show for it. Not only will you have nothing to show for it, you will get to retirement and you will have no money available. Nothing upsets me more than seeing people who have worked extremely hard for many, many years, after pensioning, so I always say, take care of your money and make holistic financial decisions. What I mean by holistic, look at your finances in totality, look at your health, look at your taxes, look at your investments, look at your business plan if you're in business, look at your estate, because when you die or you pass away, what you need to decide on now what's going to happen to your benefits. And with that said, thank you very, very much. I will take questions.
Wow. This is what we needed in that TK. You know, we learned to, you know, people actually do, and this is somebody who has worked at
Absolutely.
You see, one of the problems that I have seen, which I thought maybe would, what if I decide, you know, I've always wanted to have this big wedding for my child, and then the money is gone. Please, you know, I just want you to say just a little bit on these
pyramid schemes.
Push it,
yes.
You know, the pyramid schemes and the like. Well, but they have understanding yes, but not in these schemes. Likelihood to is going to lose that money. And that's 75% that you talked about. They cannot even get to that. In fact, zero. They can't even make that 75% that you mentioned. So please just say a little bit, because some it's so bad that some actually even go to
Absolutely. So Mary, I'll start with the first one. For me, the best thing that ever happened, and I'm going to say this, and I may get a flag about this, the best thing that's ever happened from a COVID perspective is limited people who attend weddings. I think the number is now 5 people, you know. Secondly, limited people who attend funerals. I think the number is now 30 people, you know. So what that means is it's freeing a lot of people of the pressure. Who spend a chelete, who is a manyalo lady funeral, which at times are important, but from a financial plan, if you have not planned financially, it can be detrimental. Nothing is upsetting as Ubona Mutswad. I am pensioning a beautiful wedding that is going to last for 1 weekend. Even for the rest of her life, his or her life, they have no income. Secondly, the very same people who wait till they're 55 or 65, and then they get their terminal benefits, and then they want to build a mansion, a 3-story house. Nothing is more frustrating if they have nothing to live on. Couple people who buy cars, couple who want to start businesses. So the reason you need to start thinking about retirement now is you need to start thinking, well, now, what do I want to do when I go to retirement? Not just from a financial perspective, but also from a day-to-day. Because if I used to wake up here, I'm 17 for 40, 50 years, suddenly has TV is going to be boring. It's going to become boring, you know. So we need to start thinking also now, what are you going to keep yourself busy with? And that means you need to start now, and you need to start doing that now. If you want to build with a whole, you can also say it's a couple with your terminal benefit, such that by the time you get to retirement, you've mastered, you've built the client base, you've also understood how the business works. The second thing I always say, financial markets do not lie. There are 4 asset classes that we rank on. There are cash, there is bonds, there is fixed interest, there is property, and then there are shares. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you look at the market, evaluate the annual return across the different asset classes, 6% for cash, 7% for bonds, property is performing at a negative, if shares are performing at a negative. If somebody comes to you, when you're going to get 20% in a week, where are they investing this money? In which asset class are they investing this money? And secondly, interest is either paid on a monthly basis, accrued daily, but paid on a monthly basis, quarterly, on annual basis. So if you get it in a week, where is this person coming from? So the first questions we need to ask these people are, where are they investing the money? Secondly, from a legal perspective, nobody is allowed to take your money without a license, which means the Central Bank of Lesotho will give you a license if you are a deposit taker. So if the person does not have a license, they have no right to take your money. Thirdly, gambling. A lot of people always think that retirement is also a gamble because you're not sure if you're going to live. People who were supposed to retire now because of the pandemic are probably have lost some capital in terms of the retirement, you know. But gambling, again, wealth takes time to build. You may be lucky and win the lottery, but what are the chances and what are the probabilities? The whole of South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, you know, Swaziland, all trying to bid for the lottery. What are the chances, you know? So again, if you have worked very hard for your money, you need to protect it with every single thing you have. Do not let people fly by night, people who are gonna come in, sell you a story, walk away with your money. Because I've seen people lose 150,000. I've seen people go to financial services providers such as your banks, anchor loan 150,000, allow investor in these pyramid schemes. And then they're stuck with a loan with a bank paying high interest and they have nothing to show for it. And that person walked away with 150,000. Some people even take their entire retirement savings, 40 years worth of savings, and they put it into a fly by night. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. So let us educate ourselves about how money works. Let's educate ourselves about how financial markets work, and then let's make informed financial decisions.
No, just I remember you said what you said today is not financial advice, it's financial education. But I just want to know, should I have a client coming in here asking whether you can come in and provide this education to his or her employees? Is it something that you do, or on an individual basis? Can we recommend somebody to come talk to you and get advice at that level rather than just education?
So what I normally do is I do work with a team of certified financial planners. I have a qualification in financial planning law. So I can do advisory, but I don't like that part of the business. What I do offer is financial education programs. So I can go to an employer and educate the employees, or I can do one-on-one financial coaching. Financial coaching is not financial advising. What the difference is, financial coaching is we walk the journey with you and I hold you accountable to your financial goals. Financial advisory is where I recommend, or a financial advisor will recommend financial products, but they need to be certified and licensed by the central bank. So I do coaching and I walk the customer, I walk the journey with them, and we hold each other accountable. I'm almost like a life coach or a financial coach, and I do that. But I do offer services where I go to the employer and provide education to the employees from all aspects, from budgeting, debt management, retirement, financial education in its whole.
That's very good, because we are really faced with our clients here who are really wanting to start the processes of retrenchment, as Nthebe has said. And the first thing that came to our mind is what's going to happen to these people in terms of their money. Remember, some don't even have pension. These are small employers who do not even have pension schemes, provident funds, etc. These guys are just going to get severance pay. And as you know, it's just 2 weeks of every completed year. Some have only worked for about 2 years, 3 years, and it's not even that much. But you also want to say, with that little that they're getting, they should at least have some advice on how to use it in such a way that it will grow. Whether it's 20,000, that 20,000 can grow into something bigger. So I think this is where you come in, that just to give advice to say, do this, or at least take this route, so that you don't spend your money, or just say, what's 20,000 after all? Let me just go buy myself clothes and just look nice, So I think this is, it's great to hear that these are the services that you provide and will advise. Is there anything else that you may want to add on? Because I'm thinking, but then we put up with you don't have money, you don't have housing now.
I think Mary Tabile, I like what you said earlier on, Jorge. motho bona 20,000 le 20,000 or 10,000. And for me, I always say the concept that I live by and advocate lately is how do we grow our money from descente to mahol, you know? So a lot of people will say that I don't have a lot of money. From 100 rand, 100 maluti, you can literally grow that money to become a substantial amount. So if you already have 20,000, it means that you already have something to work with. But if you have a plan, a well-defined, well-thought-out plan, you can achieve so much. Within that 20,000, you may realize, okay, ukanka 15, wanka 10 or wanka 5 or kalas, most is how what you've always wanted to do. If I think in which you're now with the developments income, because again, I always speak about the holistic financial plan. Again, while we talk about the finances, which are very, very important, health and physical wellness is also very important, because if we don't take care of our health, it's going to have a financial implication. I speak about the psychological and emotional aspect of it as well. Retirement or retrenchment is very painful, and it affects you emotionally, because you'll say that what is wrong with me? So it will affect your emotion and your psychology, which becomes very, very important for your finances. You know, we speak about the environmental. So if I'm living in an environment that is not conducive for me, the air is not fresh, is not safe, it's going to have a financial implication. If I'm sitting at home and I'm not using my mind or my intellect, it means that I'm going to rust, and I'm going to start drinking or smoking or doing anything, and that is money. So I always advocate for the holistic wellness when we speak about financial well-being. So it becomes very, very important for you to sit down and look at your finances holistically and say that what is possible with this 20,000, and where can I do with it, and where can I go? And the moment you do that, you'll realize, well, I can actually achieve so much more if I have planned it and I've thought well about it.
Oh, that's powerful, Daddy. That is powerful. Wait, but to bahaske ba ija hle. Ha baske ba ija. You know, kane te tabena ho ja chelete. Re le ga itloetsa hampe ka ho nne ho thwe chelete ke ntho e jwang. Ha e ska jwang. Kane te haholo hobane you see the unfortunate part is re a ija but re lebetse re na le bana, you know, and ke nnete bana ba tla be iketse chelete ya bona, but you also don't want to ha re tsebe na re tlhokahalaneng ha kere. So you don't want to die and leave your children destitute. So I think people need to start, our employees need to start thinking or financially progressive, like you've presented today. Advocate.
Hello, Mr. Kwani.
As we are closing, we just wanted to hear from you that the TKAY has presented. We now the employees tsa ha o mono ke a gola o ka ba eletsa gore he ba iso ke bona ga retrench, but please a ke le sebediseng tšhelete hantle fumanang bo eletsi ntate o re she provides financial education. This is an area that all employers need to legally in line, legally once in a while a session for our employees. It doesn't have to be those outgoing employees only. Even as he has said, you don't have to wait until retirement or until retrenchment. Even just how get somebody like him and start talking about how to work around your money and be sure that you are doing the right things.
Definitely, Mesapane. As I was listening to his presentation, I was like, wow, we really need to have this kind of talks with him and our employees from time to time. It's like you're saying, not during at the time of retrenchment alone, but during the operations itself. So people, because you guys are aware that the way we are all brought up, we are not financial savvy. So most of the things are informed to what are our goals within a certain time, what do you want to achieve. So he was just spot on. I was like, yes, we need to be having this kind of education from time to time. So I'm so happy I saw this. So I'm definitely going to be talking Linda Nthebe, because we need our employees to know because the employer because we have loan schemes with the banks. But ultimately, we really have to be talking about financial freedom and even tied to our goals. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Melinda. One other thing that which you know, people get money from workmen's compensation. And then they are compensated 60,000, 80,000, 120,000. You know, they chow the money. I just wish they could talk to somebody like you to say, you know, I've just landed 120,000. But I need to know what I can do with this money. How can I put it aside in such a way that I can use it later? I say 120, say even more. So it's these monies then as bonus, but I think you need this education needs to go through.
And Mary Chabile, I always advocate for packaging responsible because you want to enjoy your money, but also like Mary Chabile says, let's tie it to our financial goals. You can plan it and say, give money bonus, say I've worked hard, I'm going to enjoy part of it in a grades are 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. But you're not there needs to be a plan.
Hey, that Mvulan. Okay, that didn't clap.
No, I can't tell you.
Be very careful, have a plan, have a goal.
I think on Facebook we had one question. Generally, I don't know if Meagabang was but after how long can an employee get his benefits if his work is terminated because of COVID-19? I was checking, but maybe we can try advice, address.
Advocates?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, but the law says within. Let me just check. Benefit.
Is it not 2 months from termination?
Less than that. Okay. At the time of termination, it's less than that.
Oh, okay.
I think that Mvulani go on to talk about other questions as I look for the exact provision.
Okay,
yeah.
Not a problem.
The law is it's a bit unrealistic because on the day the employee departs on the last day of employment. Terminal benefits is a high and so obviously that is not possible. As you know, you will to start calculations 37's pay LRA and other things, you know, it's not going to happen. So I think it's not provided for in the law, but it has to be reasonable. You know, it has to be reasonable. Some employers will take forever just to compute the terminal benefits and do the proper go through the proper channels, go to the insurance for the provident funds. It goes for about 6 months, 8 months. I think that's unreasonable. I think what we can safely say is within a reasonable time. And obviously, you know, reasonable is.
Yes, I think a month, taking into account that you'll be taking the payments to LRA and then they will be coming back to you and then you prepare yourself to pay at the end of that month. So roughly a month, anything outside 2 months is too long. It's just too long. Taking especially into account that we as employers as of now, we really don't have a law backing us on the time that we take to pay. Because if the law says on the last day, then we should be working very hard to ensure that we pay within a short time.
One last question. Some viewers requesting this slide. But so will just facilitate on how you get their emails, but the email is about. Then the last question, I think in the is not necessarily a question, but TK can actually address it. You comment, I'm a victim for emotional financial decisions and emoji home. So TK, can you maybe say a bit on that? Because I heard through a presentation actually, but I just want to say, to address some of the concerns that the viewer, and then that's basically all from our Facebook viewers.
Yeah, so money is a very emotional thing. And I think the bulk of us growing up, our parents were not even proud enough for a child to get child. They would say, you're always answering, so for me, it used to be very sensitive. So, and if something is sensitive, it then becomes very emotional, okay? So you need to check, I always say, find out what your money personality is. Everybody has a money personality. It's either you're a spender, couple you are very frugal, couple everybody has a money personality. So the first step would be to understand your money personality, because that informs how you spend your money. Another thing is, if you're going to spend money, make sure you are not in an emotional state, be it you are crying, or you are angry, because you're going to take that card and you're going to swipe, and you're going to swipe, and you're going to swipe. When you wake up the next morning, you will look at your SMSs or your email notifications and you will not be happy. So I always say, treat your money right, have a plan. If you take care of your money, it will take care of you. And what that means, it will take care of your emotional well-being, your physical, your psychological, intellectual. So do not spend money when you are emotional. Your name will not have wage, but it's the same thing. Fail. So that's just my take. Thank you.
Okay, so the emotional part of it.
Yes. Sometimes I also work lady psychologists. So sometimes with Manoa it's about psychological, then I have to refer you to a qualified psychologist. So it's all encompassing. It really is all encompassing.
Yeah, that. No, thank you very much. Regarding the slides that TK and then just share them with thank you so much. This has been very informative. I am sure usually what happens is we get many questions presentation. So if there's anything that we need to refer to that TK will do that. If there's anything that we need to refer to, Mentene will do that. Thank you so much. It's always good to have people like Basatun Tharollo, because it actually says, but when we have guests, it's always very good for us and also good for CDB. We work so well with you, and I hope we'll keep this relationship going on for some time. TK, all the best. COVID, we have to live with it. But let's stay safe. Let's wear our masks. Let's do everything that we are required to do. Thank you so much, Barat.
Thank you so much, Tharollo.
Thank you.